Welcome back. Today we'll be continue reading Bug Guy, my novel about a giant bug who becomes an influencer. Chapter 5. Keeping Up with the Samsas. About a week later, I flew back to New York for my second date with Evelyn. Technically, we hadn't had a first date, but you know what I mean. My contract with Domino's had been inked and signed, and a signing bonus had come through, so I had a little extra cash. New York is expensive, but I didn't need to tell you that. After a 5-hour flight, I stood at a curb at JFK and there was a guy with a handwritten sign reading giant bug next to a limo. I quickly scurried inside. Mary was in the back seat. Aiming a camera at me, she said flirtatiously,
"Oh my, don't you look sharp today, Gregory?"
It's a new suit paid for with Domino's sponsorship money. You like it?
Like it? I love it. You look like Colonel Saunders. Now, before I start filming, I have to mic you.
She produced a lavalier mic, clipped it to the collar of my shirt, and tucked the transmitter in an inner pocket of my suit.
There, that should work. Say something to test if there are any technical glitches.
I couldn't think of anything to say, so she spoke like this was an interview.
So, are you excited about your date with Evelyn?
More like nervous. Not only is this my first proper date with her, but I get to do it in front of the entire country, if not the entire world.
Really? This is your first proper date with her? Did you already have sex with her? Wasn't that proper enough for you?
Okay, I'm going to let you in on a secret. Evelyn and I never had sex. Her roommate made that up, or assumed it, just to get on TMZ, probably.
Mary looked sad and said,
Aw, that's disappointing.
Why so?
Your story was so romantic. A man turns into this hideous, monstrous thing only to find love in the girl of his dreams, and a bug-positive one at that. It's love across boundaries of species and what is socially acceptable. I want to believe so bad that love has the kind of power to bind people together.
I was getting swept up in the way Mary rhapsodized Evelyn and me as a couple. Although I thought again, was she being too melodramatic? To me, my connection with Evelyn was not some proof of the triumph of love against prejudice. It was just boy meets girl. Okay, bug meets girl, but still, just an average relationship. But if Mary found greater meaning in it, all power to her.
Anyway, that doesn't mean we're never going to have sex. It's just that I wasn't ready.
Aw, that is so sweet. A guy who's not all hands. Sorry, I keep forgetting you don't have any hands anymore.
Evelyn had made it clear she was eager to snuggle with the buggle. So maybe I was being selfish to deprive her? If knowing the shape of my bug penis didn't put her off, why wait? When we arrived at Evelyn's apartment, she opened a door and wrapped her arms around me.
Oh my God, you're back, Greg.
Then she turned to look straight into Mary's camera and smiled. When I got a good look at her, I was absolutely astonished. She looked like a very different person. Her makeup was so heavy I thought she was a porcelain doll, and her hair was in a new style full of luscious curls that swished and bounced around her shoulders. She was in a white strapless dress, the bodice covered in the most intricate lace I'd ever seen, inlaid with dozens of crystals that shimmered in the light of the setting sun. Her skirt puffed out like the costume of a fairy tale princess, built of layers and layers of fabric. Her outfit was completed by black stiletto sandals.
Oh my God, you look gorgeous,
Mary said.
A stylist did it for free. Greg, You made such a dramatic entrance. Can you do it again so I can catch that on camera?
Reluctantly, I agreed.
Before you do that, let me mic Evelyn up.
That accomplished, I made my entrance again. Like on a set, take 2. Mary told me exactly what she wanted me to do.
Okay, when she opens the door, grab your bouquet, hold it behind your back, and run towards Evelyn. Hug her and present her with the bouquet.
What bouquet?
Oh, I meant to bring one. Damn it.
Mary looked around, saw a bunch of tulips growing in a planter on the street, and cut 3 of them with her nail clippers.
Here, problem solved. Take these.
I grasped them with my mandibles. Mary pointed her camera at Evelyn's front door and yelled.
Let's do this.
Evelyn threw open the door, posing like a Vogue model. Mary tapped me on the back and I produced the flowers and presented them to her with a flourish. She squealed in joy, smelled them and tossed them aside onto a beanbag chair, and hugged me as I threw out my front legs and hugged her back.
Tulips!
She said breathlessly.
My favorite!
But something was off. She sounded like she was acting. She then pressed her lips against my labrum.
How's my knight in shining exoskeleton?
Evelyn said, looking deep into my eyes with a smile that seemed meant more for our public than for me.
Oh, thanks for noticing. I polished my exoskeleton with an electric buffer and car wax.
Mary led us back to the limo and said to Evelyn,
That's a gorgeous dress. You look like a supermodel. It's Christian Dior, a preview of their summer line. I'm just stoked that such a prestigious designer loans such an expensive dress to a nobody like me. And all I have to do is some product placement. I feel like Cinderella.
That reminds me.
I said, looking straight into the camera.
My date with Evelyn has been sponsored by Domino's Pizza. Remember, Domino's Pizza is not garbage. At least that's what they told me to say.
We got inside the limo and Mary, hiding behind her camera, started firing questions at us.
So, what attracted you to Greg? What was it about him that made you fall head over heels, love at first sight for him? His eyes, definitely his eyes. It's like puppy dog eyes, but 100 times bigger. How can anyone look at those black crystalline globes and not fall right into them?
As Evelyn beamed as bright as the sun, Mary swung her camera to my eyes and zoomed in.
You're right. They're absolutely adorable. But what about the rest of him? Perhaps I don't have the same taste in men as you, but I definitely don't have the same taste in giant bugs. I just don't find those 6 spindly insect legs sexy.
Evelyn smiled for the camera while stroking the spines on my legs and said,
I don't know what you're talking about. The tingly feeling of his legs brushing against my skin is the most gorgeous sensation I can imagine. Okay, that's weird, but you do you, girl. Tell me, have you always been attracted to bugs? Or is this something more recent? Well, my dad was an entomologist, so there was that. He built a garden that attracted butterflies by the hundreds, and I'd play all day chasing them around. When I was 6 or 7, he brought some scarab beetle, and I was smitten. He was unlike anything I'd ever seen. His body was iridescent. It was like holding a living gemstone. I just loved having him crawl all over my skin while he shimmered and changed colors. I gave him a home in my Barbie playhouse. I never had a Ken because I didn't like Ken, but I played with the beetle like the way I would play with Ken. I would put him and Barbie on a tiny couch and have them watch TV together and go out on dates. What do you mean? when you said they'd go out on dates. I would put him and Barbie in their Barbie convertible. Then Barbie would drive him down the beach. Barbie did the driving because she's a strong and independent woman. I have a sandbox in my backyard I pretend was the beach. And I'd set up the tiny blankets and tiny umbrellas, the ones you get in cocktails. And the two would sunbathe holding hands. Well, Beetle only had legs, but you get the idea. And was this the first time you realized you were bugosexual? No, not exactly. I mean, at the time, I didn't think about it that way. Partly it has to do with the fact that I didn't understand sex. I was only 7, after all. I think I discovered it was sexual when I was 13. I was letting a bug crawl all over my body, and he accidentally slipped beneath the neckline of my pajamas and onto my breasts. He clamped his legs and perhaps even his mouth on my left nipple, and suddenly I was overcome with a tingling sensation all over my body. It took me days to realize it was the same feeling as when I fantasized about a really hot boy in my school. From then on, bugs were it for me, though in a pinch a man will do. Also, I never found a bug big enough for me until Greg came into the studio, and that fateful day on the Steve Stevenson show. Oh, so you're also attracted to men as well. Yes, I guess technically that makes me bi-bugosexual, if that's even a word. But given a choice, I prefer bugs over men. They're better listeners. You talk to bugs? Yes, doesn't everybody?
Evelyn was clearly showing off by now. Mary laughed and said,
I talk to my dog, but that's different. Not really. If you think about it, bugs are animals too. In a way, they can understand what you say, just like dogs can. How do you know they understand what you say? Well, bugs have a certain body language, the way they walk, the way they wave their antennae, the way they clean their eyes with their legs. You can tell their mood and what they're thinking, if you are sensitive enough. Whenever I need to get something off my chest, I talk to a bug. They comfort me. How? Most of the time, they just wave their antennae. Other times, they crawl onto me and breathe on me in a calming way. It's hard to explain. Once a bug rolled me a huge ball of dung. Ew! No, it was sweet, because that's what male dung beetles do to try and seduce lady dung beetles, and he did it on Valentine's Day. So he must have known it was an appropriate gift to make for me. But still, it was a ball of dung? That's why it's so important to understand the language of insects. Okay, I understand. So, is that how it works? Bugs come up to you and put moves on you? Not always. Sometimes I make the move, I'm a modern woman, so why shouldn't I? How do you make moves on a bug? Just like you do, I'm sure. I wear my sexy red dress, have my hair done at a salon, bedeck myself in jewelry, and put on my best makeup. Then I set up the kitchen, dim the lights, light the candles, and make the biggest, smelliest ball of dung. And we have a candlelight dinner with wine. A bottle of Chardonnay goes well with dung. Who knew? You eat the dung yourself? No, silly. I made myself some spaghetti. I'm not crazy. I'm just a little out of the ordinary. All that preparation for a bug? Did your family know about all this? Actually, when I was still at home, I told my dad I was preparing for a school play. And he believed you? Kind of. My guess is he always suspected I had some sort of odd relationship with bugs. Whenever I returned from a long romantic walk with a bug, he would tease me a little, saying, "So, how you're enjoying your new boyfriend?" When I made a tiny tuxedo and put it on the bug, he'd say, "The two of you would look great at a prom." But I don't think he ever understood the depth of my feelings I had for them. He was an entomologist, but his interest was purely scientific. What about your friends? What did they think about your infatuation with bugs? I didn't have many friends growing up. Okay, I did have a few, but mostly boys. Girls thought I was filthy because I liked to touch bugs and other creepy crawly things. I got along with the boys better because they were more comfortable with creepy crawlies. Some boys admired me because I was not disgusted by insects, spiders, and other invertebrates. In order to have friends, I had to pretend I was a tomboy, even though at heart I'm actually very girly. Oh, how did it feel to be surrounded by boys all the time? I'd have been thrilled.
Yeah, Evelyn laughed.
Sometimes being the only girl meant all the boys were trying to impress me, hoping I'd let them in my pants. And I admit, using that to my advantage. I'd ask for small favors like getting me a soda or carrying my books to class, seeing how far I could take it. Once I even got 3 boys to help me prepare for my birthday party. They were competing with each other. But there was a downside. Not all the boys respected my personal boundaries. A few jerks tried to take advantage of me. I didn't put up with that. No, I gave them a piece of my mind, by which I mean a piece of my fist.
Then she turned to me with a warm smile, rested her head on my head, and said,
"That's why I like Greg so much. He's just a gentleman. I mean, gentle bug. He never forced me to do anything. I think I'm actually the aggressor. It feels weird, but I get a tingly feeling playing the dominant part." Gentle bug? Did you make that word up? I don't know. I guess I must have.
Mary aimed her camera at me and said,
"So, Greg, you heard Evelyn. She's really wearing her heart on her sleeve. What are you feeling towards her? Do you feel the same burning passion that she does for you?"
Oh, yes. Maybe even more so. It might not show because I'm shy, though.
What is it about Evelyn that ignites fire in your heart and down below? Sorry if that's too personal.
Well,
I paused, searching for the right words. When they didn't come, I knew I had to say something, so I said,
I'm not sure I want to say this out loud, but she reminds me of my cousin.
Both of them broke into gales of laughter. Mary was in such hysterics she put down the camera.
What's wrong with that?
I said,
Charles Darwin and FDR both married their cousins.
Regaining her composure, Evelyn said,
No, Greg, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Was your dad also into his cousin? If he was, I think I just found out the reason why you turned into a giant bug.
Well, that's a very mean thing to say.
I was only teasing you.
She rubbed my head as though that was going to comfort me.
I'm sorry, but to me, that is no laughing matter. When I was a fresh-faced 14-year-old, I fell madly in love with my cousin Clementine. For obvious reasons, I couldn't tell her. All I could do was invent an excuse every now and then to hold her hand or give her a hug. It killed me to know she would never return the love I had for her. And in the end, when she got married, I was heartbroken that I'd never had a chance to kiss my secret sweetheart. It kind of ruined romance for me in my 20s. Anyway, Now I'm the one wearing my heart on my sleeve, but not in a winning way.
Oh, Greg.
Evelyn said, caressing my mandibles.
If I'd known about that, I never would have made my tasteless little joke.
That's all right. Everyone makes mistakes.
And that concludes Chapter 5, Part 1 of Bug Guy. Let me thank Edie Matthews and Dave Strom for helping me with the reading. If you're interested, I provided a link to which you can purchase my book. Join me next time for more Bug Guy. Sure. We'll end it there, so,
That is the end.
I was holding a cough.
Yeah, I'm really noticing the voice of the SpongeBob Doctor and my wimpy voice is very close together, so I don't want to do those two voices close together.
I know.
I always imagined Wimpy as having this smooth, intellectual voice because he's got an IQ in the 300s, actually.
I know. I'm trying to change the level between Mary and Evelyn. Mary being higher.
I can hear it sometimes.
good,
so,
good.
yeah.
Good, it's tricky. And then the mother shows up too, so it's like,
I'm really getting thinking about kind of the little vocal tics that Gregory does sometimes. I mean, at least how I read it. Like sometimes a little pause before the last bite of the sentence, for one thing. And of course, you know, since he's a bug, he said he would hiss his S's and other similar syllables. Yeah.
Sure.
The bugs breathe through those holes in their body. Although Gregory would have to have lungs, or he wouldn't be able to survive at that size. So.
no, I think you do a good job, Dave. And I like in your reading of the character is consistent. You know, so it's easy to tell when.
I have to take notes on which one is which too.
Yeah.